Okay, we're continuing the Sikha this week, Chavra. This is the last week we're going to be learning this Sikha.
Next week?
We're Mitzvah only go higher and higher. So here, we are in Parshas Emor, in the Sikha. We are going to learn this week, Ois Zayin. It's on page 529. Got it?
Yep.
Ois Zayin, Siv Zayin. So, to recap the points of the Sikha, the Rebbe discusses a few different things. The main theme of the Sikha was about the Aleph of Geula. And the Aleph has three different pshatim. The first pshat of the Aleph is Alufay Shalaylam, the master of the universe. The second pshat of the Aleph is Ulfana, which means to learn, to study. The third pshat of the Aleph is the same letters as Pele, a wonder. What does this mean? So the Rebbe explained that in the level of godliness that we will reveal in the world when Mashiach comes, there are these three levels. The lowest level of the spheres is Malchus, the Eibishter's kingdom in the world. That's the Aluf Shalaylam. A level up is the Eibishter's Midas, or the Chachma, which has a connection to the Midas. That's the level of the second level of the Aleph, which has to be studied and learned, and it's a deeper Aleph that you have to reveal in the world. And then the highest Aleph is the Aleph, which is a Pele, that's Moichen Be'etzem, or even higher than that, as the Rebbe said in the Sikha. Okay, so the next dice here, the Rebbe will connect this to the Pirkei Avos of that week, Pirkei Avos, Perik Daled. The Sikha here is very bekitzer. We'll go through what it says here. Okay, Siv Zayin. Let's go inside. You got it? Bichdei as bei jeden Yidin soll sein dem Koyach. In order for every Yid to have the power to oifnem in them gili from Mashiach, to be able to accept these tremendous revelations we're speaking about, we're not only talking about revelations that are up there in Olam Yisrael that's being revealed from above, but every Yid has the power to really take this into Pnimius, to himself. Darf bei ihm sein me'ein von die Darges Hanal in the Aleph. So the levels of Aleph that we spoke about, that exist by the Eibishter, that's revealed when Mashiach comes, in every Yid, in his neshama, he possesses the three dargas of the Aleph. Ki yidua, so now it's known as Yedi Yid hoten sich a nitzutz from Mashiach. Every Yid has a spark of Mashiach in him. This is actually based on the pasuk in this week's parsha. Comes from the Morenaim. See if the Mitzayim, Morenaim, Tzef Parshas Pinchas. What is it based on? Because it says in this week's parsha, Dorach. Well, that's where the Morenaim says it. Yeah. But in this week's parsha, so Bilam says, Dorach koichav mi Yaakov, that there's a star that shoots out from Yaakov. Who is this referred to? So there are two pshatim. One pshat is that it refers to Mashiach. Another pshat is that it refers to every single Yid. So the Rebbe would always say that these two pshatim go together, because every single Yid has a level of Mashiach in his heart. On the Rebbe sagt that is, that's why on Yontif, when we open Aron Kodesh, what does every Yid say regarding himself? V'yiskayim banu. Should be fulfilled in us, including oneself. Mikra shekasov, what it says in the pasuk, v'nacha olav, and the pasuk that's quoted is the pasuk that it says by Mashiach, v'nacha olav ruach havaya. The revelation of Mashiach should be revealed and affect every single Yid. Okay, so those are the two sources that there's a level of Mashiach within every single Yid. So if Mashiach is going to reveal the three levels of the Aleph in the world, so every Yid has it within himself, within his own Aveda, within his own Neshama, these three levels of the Aleph. This is the content of the first Mishnah in the fourth Mishnah of Pirkei Avos, the Mishnah that speaks about four different things in the life of a person. Ezel Chacham, who's the truly wise man? The Mishnah goes on to say who that is. Ezel Gibar Chulu, who is the truly mighty person. Ezel Oshir, who is the truly wealthy man. And Ezel Mechubat, who is the one that's truly honorable. Okay, so the Rebbe does not get into the details of what the Mishnah says, what the answer to these questions are. But the point is that the Mishnah addresses specifically these four areas in a person's life: his wisdom, his strength, his wealth, and his honor. What is the significance of these four levels, of these four concepts? So it's known as Izene Keneged, the fear dargis. So these four things that are discussed here in the Mishnah correspond to the four levels in the neshama of a Yid. In Velachas teilen sich the Esses Spheres. So the 10 spheres are divided into these 4 levels. And then it evolves and it comes down into this world. There are the 10 kaiches of a person that are divided into the 4 categories that the Mishnah speaks about. Keneged, the Dal Daisis from Shema Vaya. And the 4 levels mentioned in the Mishnah here correspond to the 4 letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei. As it says in many places, the 4 letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei are different parts of the 10 spheres. And the Rebbe here brings what he's speaking about. Ezeo Chacham. When the Mishnah begins with the level of wisdom, that's Chachma. That's the beginning of the 10 spheres. The level of Chachma, which is the Yud of Shem Havai. The Yud, which is one Nekuda, 1 point, that's the Chachma. Ezeo Gibar. Then when the Mishnah speaks about strength, that's Bina. Bina is connected to Gibar. What's the connection of Gibar to Bina? The Rebbe doesn't explain. But it does say in many places in Chassidus, if you take the 10 spheres and you divide them into 3 different categories, the Kava Yamin, which is Chesed, and the Kava Smail, on the left, which is Gvura, so then Chochmeh, Chesed, and Netzach is the Kava Yamin, and then Bina, Gvura, and Haid is on the left. So Bina and Gvura go together. What's the connection between Bina and Gvura? What is the concept of Gvura in Chassidus? Gvura is Tzimtzum. Gvura is when the basic difference between Chesed and Gvura is Chesed is the giver. When a person gives indiscriminately and he doesn't make any judgment of who he's giving to, the level of the receiver doesn't matter. He's mashpiach Chesed without any limitations. That's Chesed. Gvura is the exact opposite. Gvura is that before he gives, he judges. He's critical. Is he deserving? Is he not deserving? What is he going to do with the money that I give him? Should I give him? Should I not? That's what Gvura is. And that's why Gvura is the source of Tzimtzum. Now, if you think about the difference between Chachma and Bina, it's a similar thing. Chachma is a person that's very creative. You know, certain people, their mind is constantly working overtime. They always have these innovations, new ideas, very creative. That's Chachma. Then Bina is different. Bina is a person that's able to take that creative idea and break it down. And he's able to question, how's this going to work? How are we going to apply this? Does it, when you break it down to the details, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's the koyach of Bina, to break it down to the details. So in that sense, Bina is mamish the same idea as Gvura. Just like Gvura is just in the world of Midas. When a person wants to share with someone, so Gvura shares in a way of judgment, and you're critical about who you give, who you don't give to. Bina in the world of Seichel is the same concept of Gvura. Bina in the world of Seichel is taking an idea and breaking it down and being critical about the subject and looking at the details of it. That's the connection of Gibar to Bina.
Other place in Chassidus describes Bina as it takes the dot in the palace, which is Chachma, and expands it.
Expands it, correct. So, yeah, but the expansion refers to the details. How do you expand that Nakuda? By breaking down the details and then applying it to every single detail. And then once you have the details, another detail, until it could be endless applications of that one idea. So it's the same thing.
Women are more...
Again, sorry?
Women are more Buddhic?
I don't know. You have to ask them. Okay. There's a maimah in Likutei Torah. The Alter Rebbe Likutei Torah Pasha Tazria talks about the fact. The Alter Rebbe says actually that women are b'chitzenius, they seem to be chesed, but b'pnimius, they're really gvura. Look in the maimah that you'll see. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue on to the next parts. What does the Mishnah say? Ezeu Ashir, who is a truly wealthy man. So what is Ashirus? Teferes. That represents Teferes, which is Kolalos Amidus. Teferes, which includes both Chesed and Gvura. That's the combination of Teferes. That's the true wealth. When a person, again, there's no clear hesber over here why Ashiris refers to Teferes, but I guess Ashiris is a person that's not lacking in any sense, right? He has full wealth. If a person only has Chesed, but he's lacking the Gvura, or he has Gvura and lacking Chesed, so you don't have the full combination and the beauty of both, of the right balance. When you have both together, Chesed and Gvura, which is Teferes, that's the real Ashiris. And then Ezeu Mechubed, the last thing the Mishnah discusses, which is Malchos, Shenyane Kavod, Mechubed, honor, that's for a king. A king is the person that gets the most honor. So Bekitzer, what is it Rebbe saying here? That when you see the 4 things in the Mishnah here, it's referring to the 4 different oisias of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Yud is Chachma, the first Hey is Bina, and then the Vav are the 6 Midas. And the main thing of all the Midas is Teferes, because Teferes is the center of the Midas and it includes all the Midas. And then the last Hey is Malchus, and those are the 4 categories of the name of the Eibishter, which also is connected to the different the different interpretations of the Aleph that the Rebbe spoke about before. So the point here is every Yid could and has within himself these 4 levels in his neshama, and every single Yid has to work on expressing these 4 parts of his neshama. Every Yid possesses that part of Hashem in him. Havaya is these 4 levels we're speaking about. Yud Kei Vav Kei. The essence, when you grab onto part of it, you have it all. It's indivisible. So it's the Eibush. Every Yid is one and is connected to the Eibush himself. The Riber is adding sich koilol alle 4 oisies von alaka. So therefore, every Yid has in his neshama all 4 levels of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Chinas alufay shalaylam, beginning with the interpretation of the Aleph that the Eibush is the master of the universe. On von Havaya. And every Yid also has in his neshama also the levels of Havaya, which is a lakus shalamayla mayla. Chassidus always tells us, what does Havaya represent? Havaya represents the level of godliness that's higher than creation. Elikim, Bereishis bar Elikim, that's the source of creation. But Havaya is the level of godliness that's higher than creation. This is actually one of the main themes of Igeres HaTshuvah, which we began learning today. Today's the first day of Igeres HaTshuvah. One of the main themes of Igeres HaTshuvah comes in Perek Dalet, where the Alter Rebbe talks about the subject of Chelek Havaya Amay, that every Yid, his neshama is made up of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Alter Rebbe speaks about it Barichas Gedola, even more than in the first Chelek of Tanya. And that's what happens when a Yid does an Aveda, that it's a Pagam in the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and when you do Tshuva, you reconnect the Hei Tata, the Hei La. It all revolves around this Nekudah here, that every neshama has this Kayach of Yud Kei Vav Kei in him. On Zan Aveda Bashtet, the Aveda of a Yid in this world consists of Megala Zayin, the 4 Inyanim and Zich, to reveal these 4 levels in oneself. Biz and Anoifim from the Fnim Shuras Adin, Mila the Chasidusa, B'chinas Nefloisha B'Teira, to reveal it to an extent even greater than you think you can. Take it beyond the kaychas that you think you have. That's because this is in Pirkei Avos, Mila the Chasidusa, to do things beyond the regular. Und durch dem, was begale alle 4 Inyanim, when a Yid reveals these 4 aspects of his neshama, wird die Shleimus HaMalchus. So these 4 levels is what constructs the full kingdom of the Eibishter in the world. Shleimus Kisi HaMalchus shel daled raglayim dafke. The throne of the Eibishter's kingdom, which needs 4 legs, as it says by Shlomo Melech, Vayeshev Shlomo Kisi Havaya. Shlomo sits on the throne of Hashem, which has to have these 4 legs. Umein zeh bayed Yid. Just like this says by Shlomo Melech, so somewhat you have this by every single Yid. Varim Yidin zen b'nei Melachim. The Gemara refers to Yidin as being b'nei Melachim, princes, and nachmer Melachim. And even more so, in Zayir it says that Yidin are compared to kings. Biz, as durch dem bakumt shayches zu mechubed, every Yid has a true honor, was nimmt sich von Kveider shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every Yid takes the honor of the Eibishter for himself. When you meet a king, a non-Jewish king, so what's the bracha you make? That the Eibishter has shared from his honor with this king of flesh and blood. How much more so a Yid that has in the shama gets from the true honor of the Eibishter. Most definitely a Yid through his connection to Teira. Every Yid has his connection, his particular letter, and his place that he's connected to in Teira. As it says regarding Yidden, we say every day, Kol Banayich Limudei Avaya, that all of the Eibish's children are Limudei Avaya, have this connection to Teira. On, even more so, the Rebbe continues, Man Malki Rabbanon. Who are the true kings? Rabbanon, though those that study Teira, which is all Yidden, was durch them. So it's not only the level of Malchus, but even the Chachma and Malchus, which is the level of Shleime, B'china Shleime, bis Shleimus HaMalchus, this is Kailal alle 4 Inyanim Anal, the full ultimate Melucha of the Eibishter, which is revealed by the throne of the Eibishter that rests upon 4 legs, Chacham, Giboir, Asher, Mechubad. As the Rebbe explains, these are the 4 letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the 4 different parts of the 10 Spheres. And this is the full Melucha of the Eibishter that's revealed in the world. So you have the full throne of the Eibishter resting upon 4 legs. And then you could sit peacefully. If you have a chair that only has 2 legs or 3 legs even, it's not comfortable. It's wobbly. It's not secure. But when you have 4 legs, so then the melucha of the Eibush is complete. Vayesher shleim al kisei havaya. Ulahaisiv as durich dem vert euch nimshach roishai shel melech lamato. When a king sits on a throne, so it's the head of the king as well that comes down, that lowers down and sits as well. So the king is coming down to you. Raglov, and then based on the pasuk that it says, Raglov werden aufgehoben al hadoim ragloi. The feet are lifted up on a footstool. So what this means is, was durch hamshacha mailo lamata. There's a hamshacha from above to below, and halah mata lamayla, and elevating from below to above. Vert shleimus hachibur von elakus shalamayla b'ma'olam. You bring down, you join together the level of godliness that's above the world. Biz b'bchinas neflois mitaylam. The level of neflois of the Eibishter is connected to the world from gili b'chinas Aleph in mitzias ha'olam v'hagalos gaila, to draw down, to reveal the Aleph of the Eibishter into the world. Okay, let's finish off the Inyan. This is, really the conclusion of the Inyan. The Rebbe then connects it to the time that the Sikha was said and the connection to Sfiris HaImer. I'd like to conclude. We're not going to go through the rest of the Sikha here, which discusses the time period that the Rebbe said it, the connection to Lag Baimer, the connection to Rab Shimon ben Yochai. Let's conclude the Sikha with the Hayra, with the end of the Sikha, the last ice of the Sikha here. See, so this is Ois Yud, the end of the Sikha. So here, it's on page 533. Okay, so I think how many weeks have you been learning the Sikha already? 6 or 7 weeks? Oh, less? Al Kapanim. So we went through Baruch Hashem, the whole Sugya, Arichas. So let's finish with the words of the Rebbe, the Hira that we have to take out of this whole Sikha. The Hira der Fum Bepashtus. The lesson that we take of the Sikha is simple. The Negeyat to the Peulis was jeden dafen ton to Nochmer Memar Zayin de Gula. What are the actions we have to take? What is it that we have to do to hasten the coming of Mashiach? In Zugab to the Peulis and Chelka Ba'ilam bis B'chol Olam. In addition to whatever a person does outside of himself, in his portion of the world, people you come in contact with, the places that you go, in the whole world. So Megala Zayin v'der Eibishter is Alufish Alaylam, revealing the fact that the Eibishter is the master of the world. In the Welt and in Jede Sachen Welt, Bechlal of the whole world, and in every object that you touch and that you do in the world. When you utilize everything in the world for the sake of heaven and of the Eyu, to find the knowledge of Hashem and everything. As Jede Zach Ba'ilam is Megala Kvedesh Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To the point that everything in the world is revealing the true honor of the Eibishter. That's obvious. That's the Avodah of a Yid in this world. Wherever you go, you're the Eibishter's ambassador in the world to reveal the honor and the glory of the Eibishter in the world. But now, what's the special lesson of everything we learned in this Sikha? One should add a special addition to add in studying and learning Torah. Again, the whole Sikha was about the Aleph, right? And the main Chiddush of the Sikha was that the Aleph is not only Alufa Shel Olam. The Aleph also refers to Ulfana, which means studying deeper, finding a deeper darga of Holokos that you won't find in the world itself. So therefore, for this, you have to add learning Torah. To add learning more Chassidus, to learn, to really understand. Chochme, Bina, Das. To influence others as well, to learn Chassidus, to spread the wellsprings of Chassidus. So that's the Hira here. It's to be Meisef in Torah. That will help you discover the deeper pshat of the Aleph, the Ulfane, and then the Pella of the Aleph. How are you going to reveal the Pella of the Aleph? Only through learning Chassidus. It should be the will of the Eibishter that by this Aveda that we do, of completing our Aveda, reinstellen und Megala sein dem Aleph und Geila, by bringing in that Aleph, introducing that Aleph into the Galus, that das gleich bringen die Geule, this will bring the redemption, take it from a Yad Mamish, as nach V'yiden stehen, b'mamodim matzovim, it's the Mamish, as we're standing here today in our condition at this moment, literally. In Zeir, levushim begotten, whatever you're dressed with, and this doesn't only mean physically, but also spiritually. Even if the garments you're wearing, which in Chassidus garments refers to machshava, dibur, maisa, your thought, speech, and action, even if they're dirty, they're not perfect, they're not clean, and you're not ready to greet Mashiach. But we're not going to wait We're not going to wait for every Yid to say, let me clean myself up, let me be ready. Mashiach will come immediately. Mashiach comes, and he will not be held up when it's the time for him to come, and the time should be right now. He shouldn't be held up even as a blink of an eye. And only after Mashiach comes, so what does it say in the pasuk? Mashiach comes and says, let's help the Yidden remove their dirty clothing, their dirty garments. Meyalov. So what we see from the pasuk is that first Mashiach comes, and then Mashiach says, come, I'll clean you. Most definitely, we're speaking about Yidden. All Yidden are pure and holy and righteous. So definitely Mashiach will come immediately. Young and old, sons and daughters, gain zusammen mit alle Zeiden Yonim. We go to the arrival of Mashiach with everything we have, kaspam, mitam, our silver and our gold with us. Most definitely, with alle knisiyas ubatim midrashis. We bring along the shul with the Sefer Torah, and here the Rebbe is mentioning the Sefer Torah. Interesting. There must have been some Achnasa Sefer Torah that took place that week. That the women finished. This is before the times when you had a Siyum Sefer Torah on a weekly basis. It was like a chiddush that Rebbe speaks about this Siyum Sefer Torah that happened that week. Connecting this also to giving tzedakah, which brings Mashiach even closer. In Eretz HaKodesh, in Yerushalayim, Nir HaKodesh, Bahar HaKodesh, Bebeis HaMikdash HaShlishi, Mikdash Adnai, Kainenu Yedecha. Go ahead. So Mitzvah next week, I'd like to begin another sikha which will take us a